Hi everyone and welcome to nutrition tutorial number 3, where today's nutrient that we're going to discuss is going to be fats. And just as we did with carbohydrates on the previous tutorial, we're going to break it down into good categories or good fats and bad fats. Okay, so most of you at home know that fats or healthy fats need to be consumed on a daily basis as part of a healthy diet. Fats actually need to make up around about 20% of your overall calorie intake, but obviously most of those need to come from healthy sources. Most of you also know that a certain percentage of your body needs to be made up of fat for us to be classed as healthy, but obviously not too much. And that's the stuff that most people are trying to decrease to get to a nice healthy level. So, today's tutorial we're going to give you the basics of good fats and bad fats and where to get those sources from, so hopefully you can just implement some of the stuff that you learned today into your daily or weekly nutrient intake to make for a nice healthy diet. So let's start with good fats. Now good fats are often termed unsaturated fats or essential fatty acids such as omega-3s and omega-6s. Now why are omega-3s and 6s or healthy fats classed as essential? Basically, the body does not have the ability to produce omega-3s and omega-6s, so they have to come from external sources, i.e. our diet. Okay. Also, the body cannot function correctly without the right amount of healthy fats or omega-3s and 6s going into it. Every single cell reaction that happens in your body requires good fats for it to do so, so as you can imagine, unless we're consuming those healthy fats or the good fats, the body's not going to function correctly. What are good fats responsible for? Well, they're responsible for your immune function, they're responsible for your brain function, they're responsible for sight, they're responsible for hair growth, they're responsible for your reproductive system. They're basically responsible for every single thing that happens in your body. And would you believe that more than 95% of the population are deficient in healthy fats on a daily basis, or deficient in omega-3s and omega-6s. Now when you think of the things that they're responsible for, it's an unbelievable statistic. So next question, where do the healthy fats come from? Well, there are a few different sources of where we can get healthy fats from. The first one being fish. In particular cold water fish such as salmon, sardines, mackerel and tuna. They contain high levels of omega-3s and omega-6s. Now, white fish is good for you and a good source of healthy protein. However, it doesn't tend to contain the high numbers of omega-3s and 6s that the red fish that we've talked about do. Secondly, we've got nuts and seeds. Seeds, so we've got sunflower seeds, we've got flax seeds, we've got nuts such as cashew nuts, such as Brazil nuts, such as walnuts, such as almonds. Okay, so they all contain high levels of omega-3s and omega-6s. We've also got plant oils, okay, so plant oils such as canola oil, hemp oil, we've got grapeseed oil, we've got flaxseed oil. All these things contain high levels of omega-3s and omega-6s, okay. Now, what about extra virgin olive oil? Extra virgin olive oil is okay, it's okay to cook with, but it doesn't contain the high number of omega-3s and omega-6s that the previous oils that we've just discussed actually does. Now, just another note on the oils, when cooking, the oils that are high in omega-3s and omega-6s, when you heat them, when they get to a certain temperature, they tend to lose, or they do lose, a lot of their good properties, as in the omega-3s and omega-6s get diminished at a certain temperature. So when using oils to cook, try and use them at the temperature that you actually buy them at. Okay, so straight from the bottle, if you will. Now, finally, what other source can we get the omega-3, 6s and 9s from? Well, you can, of course, supplement with them. Now, you'll find good sources of supplements, omega-3s and 6s, at any good kind of nutrition store. So as well as trying to consume omega-3, 6s or healthy fats as part of a healthy diet, you should also supplement with, generally it's capsules or oils you can get with omega-3s and omega-6s on a daily basis. Now, if you look at the labels on either the oils or the capsules that you get, they will give you the recommended daily amount you should be consuming and give you an idea of how much you should be supplementing with. Okay, so that's good fats for you. So let's move on now to bad fats, or what's sometimes termed as saturated fats. Why are saturated fats bad for you? Well, basically, saturated fats are of no real use to the body whatsoever. They don't, or they are not used as part of any of the cell reactions in the body that we discussed previously. They basically go into the body, they're not used, they're stored as a source of fat, generally around the midsection, around the hips, or around the bottom. The areas that we really don't want to be storing that fat. What's the problem with consuming too much saturated fat? Well, it leads to health problems. Obesity, leads to high blood pressure, leads to risk of diabetes, leads to decrease in immune function, which, as you can imagine, leads to many more health problems. Currently, around about 50% of the UK population is obese, and that leads to loads of health problems. So as you can see, saturated fat or consuming too much of it can lead to obesity and lots more problems. So we want to consume as little of that type of fat as possible. Where do saturated fats or bad fats come from? Well, they come from fatty cuts of meat. They come from other meat sources such as sausages, such as pies, such as pork pies, those kind of things. They also come from things such as butter, high-fat milk, lard, chocolate, cakes, biscuits, confectionery. All of those things tend to contain a high amount of saturated fat that we need to keep to an absolute minimum and not consume. So, from that little tutorial, hopefully you can see why good fats are good and why bad fats are bad, and different sources of each. Now, how much on average, or how much fat per day should your average person be consuming? Males should be consuming no more than around about 90 grams of fat per day overall, and females no more than 70 grams of fat per day, with obviously the majority of that coming from the unsaturated or healthy fat source and not the saturated fat. Okay, of the 70 and 90 grams that we should be taking on board each day, an absolute maximum of about 20 to 25 maximum should come from saturated fats, with the rest coming from unsaturated or healthy fats. Now, as a general rule, if we're looking at food labels, what's classed as high fat and what's classed as low fat, the NHS website actually says that if something per 100 grams on a food label is less than 3 grams of fat, it's classed as low in fat. And if something is more than 20 grams of fat per 100 grams, it's basically classed as high in fat. Obviously, there's quite a big in between there, so my recommendation would be to go for the lower end of the scale, you know, towards the kind of 3 to 10 grams of fat mark, making sure that most of the grams of fat that are in there are coming from the good sources or the unsaturated sources. Now, in terms of today's tutorial, that's everything that we need to discuss. So, I hope you enjoyed it, hope you've learned a little bit from it, and I look forward to seeing you at the next tutorial and the next video. Thank you.